All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sophie Dunn. I'm the Executive Director of the Philadelphia Holocaust Remembrance Foundation. And as this is our first virtual event in a couple of months, I just want to start with a very quick personal note to our community that I'm just very grateful for the support that I've received as I've assumed the Executive Director role earlier this year. And it is a pleasure and an honor to be joining you in this role now for this program, a program that we've done for many years and is just really meaningful. So I'm pleased to see some familiar faces and some new faces on this Zoom call, ready to light your candles together in remembrance of those that perished in the Holocaust. This is the 7th annual yellow candle lighting that we've done, and it feels increasingly more and more important for us to be finding space to join together in community in a really challenging world. So I'd really like to welcome you all to this program. There are folks on this call from Philadelphia. There will be folks joining us from Idaho, from California, Florida, Alaska, and North Carolina. So welcome to you all. Just for a brief roadmap of the program, I'm going to share a little bit about Yom HaShoah and give us a little bit of context. And then our guest, Avi Wisnia, will be presenting and will lead us in the candle lighting. And the whole program will be roughly a half an hour. So first, why are we here? What is Yom HaShoah? Holocaust Remembrance Day. It began at sundown yesterday and it ends at nightfall tonight, and it is a solemn occasion to reflect on the atrocities committed during the Holocaust and to honor the memory of the millions of victims and to also reaffirm our commitment to combating anti-Semitism and all forms of bigotry and discrimination. In more recent years, Yom HaShoah has also become a time to not only remember the 6 million Jewish lives lost, but also to honor the resilience of the survivor community and for remembering those survivors that are no longer with us. So to offer a little bit of history, the first Holocaust Remembrance Day took place in Israel in 1949. This was after the chief rabbinate determined that there should be an annual memorial day to those who perished in the Holocaust, which at that point had only ended a few years before. The day was marked by the burial of ashes and bones that had been brought from the Flossenburg concentration camp. And the next year, the day was similarly marked with memorial ceremonies of burials of ashes, of desecrated Torah scrolls, and of other objects that were brought from Europe. Making sure I'm also letting folks in. In 1951, Holocaust Remembrance Day was officially declared to take place on the 27th of Nisan in the Hebrew calendar, which is why the date moves between April and May each year on our calendar. Other countries and Jewish communities throughout the world have been commemorating Yom HaShoah now for decades. Our calling today to remember the Holocaust should be stronger than ever. As the number of survivors decreases every year, we must affirm our commitment to education, as future generations will not have the opportunity to meet and speak with and learn directly from survivors. Our pledge to teach and to remember is a pledge that was made generations ago, but it's a commitment that we must fill with new energy and new meaning today. As I said, this is our 7th virtual Yom HaShoah candle lighting, where we've come together to remember and to reflect. The yellow candle lighting has become a real staple of our Yom HaShoah programming. It's a concise and meaningful way to connect with members of our community across the country and in some cases across the world. For the central part of our program tonight, we will be hearing from a member of our community, Avi Wisnia. Avi is a grandchild of survivors. He is an award-winning singer, a songwriter, and a storyteller, and an educator who is based in Philadelphia. He's performed all over the world, from the Kennedy Center in DC to concert tours in Japan, Poland, and Brazil. He's given a TED Talk. He's performed with the Moth Storytellers, and he runs the Philly Songwriters Circle Collective. You may also know him from the PBS documentary How Saba Kept Singing, which chronicles his travels with his grandfather, cantor David Wisnia, to sites in Poland to perform music and learn more about how his grandfather survived the Holocaust by singing. Since his grandfather's passing, Avi continues to share his Saba's stories and songs in order to educate and to ensure that we never forget. Tonight, Avi will be speaking about his grandfather and about their musical relationship. And we will be led in a very, very special way in the candle lighting by both Avi and his grandfather. I'll ask you to please remain on mute throughout the program just to make sure we don't have any outside distracting sound. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Avi.
Thank you, Sophie, and good evening to all of you. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with you on this Yom HaShoah. Our voices are powerful. As a singer, I love using my voice to connect with others and create and foster community. My grandfather, my Saba, David Wisnia, was also a singer, a cantor. And I learned from him just how powerful one voice can be. My grandfather was a man who was always singing. He was singing when he woke up in the morning, when he called me on the phone, when he ordered from the waitress at Moish and Itzi's Deli in Newtown, Pennsylvania. He would sing for anyone, anytime. And that was his motto. You've got to sing no matter what. Music is what kept him going throughout his entire life, and music plays a central part in his story of survival. His incredible singing voice is one of the reasons why David Wisnia survived the Holocaust. And I would like to introduce you to my Saba and his voice through this video so you can hear and understand the power of his voice and his style of singing, his chazanut, with this song, Sheyibane Beit HaMikdash.
Sheyibane Beit HaMikdash.
Sheyibane Beit HaMikdash b'mehera b'yameinu yehi ratzon milfarnecha ratzon yehi ratzon milfarnecha yehi ratzon milfarnecha sheyibane Beit HaMikdash sheyibane Beit HaMikdash v'ten chalkeinu b'toratecha v'shom navodecha be'ira Shanim Kalem
My grandfather, cantor David Wisnia, survived the Holocaust by singing. While a teenager imprisoned in the Auschwitz concentration camp, he was forced to entertain his Nazi guards by performing for them any songs he could think of that would please his captors. The songs he would perform were songs he remembered from his childhood in Poland. Songs taught to him by his mentors, the famous cantors of Warsaw. That connection to his past kept him alive during one of the darkest chapters of human history. For many years, my grandfather did not talk about the horrors he experienced during the Holocaust, how his entire family was murdered in the Warsaw Ghetto, how, as a prisoner of Auschwitz, he was tasked with collecting the dead bodies that were strewn about the camp, the beatings and torture he endured, the things he saw, the pain he felt. It was only with some time and distance, when people in his community provided the space for him to tell his story, that he began to feel comfortable sharing it. Slowly, he started opening up about his past, piece by piece, one small vignette and then another. Music helped him too. After the war, having been rescued by the American soldiers of the 101st Airborne, he was able to start a new life in the United States. It was in Levittown, Pennsylvania, where he found his way back to music. With his wife, Hope, my grandmother, and their newborn baby boy, Eric, my father, he joined a budding Jewish community that he would help grow into a thriving congregation. They began to ask him to sing for their Friday night Shabbat services. After all he had been through, David was able to reconnect to his Jewish roots and lead his community in song. My grandfather continued singing as a cantor in the United States for the next 50 years. There were still many difficult emotions to navigate, and he would not often talk about it. But you could hear it when he sang, in the lyrics of his songs, in the old world melodies, in the beautiful bellowing baritone of his voice. Music helped him articulate things that could not be expressed in words. Towards the end of his life, I would accompany my Saba on the piano, and we started performing together. He started to recognize the urgency of having his story heard, and slowly opened up about his experiences. He would teach me songs from his childhood that he remembered, and through the process of sharing music with me, he started sharing more of what he had held on to for so long. The painful memories, and even more so, the happy ones that he had almost clouded out entirely. I was deeply affected by the power of my grandfather's performances, and I saw this also reflected in the audiences who sat in rapt attention at our concerts. In January of 2020, we were invited to return to Poland to perform music together. We took a film crew with us, and we processed our journey in real time on camera. On this trip, we were able to trace his remarkable journey from child singing prodigy to Auschwitz prisoner to liberator with the American Army. We were able to document a concert we performed in Warsaw, where 75 years later, David Wisnia once again took the stage, no longer as a child or as a prisoner, but as a survivor in the spotlight, as the singing star of Poland perhaps he was always meant to be. It was the last trip that we would take together. That journey turned into the documentary film How Saba Kept Singing, which premiered on PBS. And since my grandfather's recent passing, I continue to share his music and his story, now memorialized with the help of this film. And the film is just one way that we have been able to keep my grandfather's memory and his musical legacy alive. In memory of all those whose stories we may never know, let us now listen to my Saba as he sings in Yiddish the song Moishelach Shleimalach.
Shleimalach. It's a very sad song, very short, telling the story that there is no more right after World War II. Moishelach, Shleimalach, little ones playing in Poland, how they all disappeared. And here it is. Unter die polnische grünige Bäumelach spielen sich mehr nicht kein Mäuselach, Schleimelach. Spielen sich mehr nicht kein Surlach, Leelach, nicht auf kein Gräselach, nicht auf kein Schneelach. Hilchen sein mehr nicht kein jüdische Stimmelach, von dick und Deisenlach, Motterlach, Schimmelach. Mit die zerkrellte, zerdrappete Zurlach, von dem Beweisen, von der ihm in Geburlach. In de polnische Bäumelach, Teutzen in jüdische Heimen und Heimelach, Teutzen in Gesselach, Chorb die Heiselach, wo es verstecken sich Kinder wie Meiselach, jüdische Kinder mit größten Geigelach. Chorb azoi wie mit Choshech Verzeugene. Heigelach volle mit Pachat Verlaufene, unter dem Unglück, dem Gräunem Getroffene. Unter die polnische grünige Bäumelach spielen schein mehr nicht kein Mäuselach, Schleimelach. Spielen sich mehr nicht kein Surlach, Leelach, nicht auf kein Gräselach. Nicht auf kein Schneelach. Thank you.
When my grandfather first arrived in the United States, he still had his Auschwitz prisoner number tattooed on his arm. 83526. He went through an expensive and painful plastic surgery procedure to have it removed. His arm was sliced open and then sewn up in such a way that the skin kept pulling apart as it tried to heal together. He could not sleep for a year. Till the day he died, just a few summers ago, a curve of the 6, the last digit, still remained. The tattoo is such a cruel metaphor of the legacy of the Holocaust. Even after being liberated from hell, the prisoners are never fully free? How deep does the ink go? The prisoner tattoo was just another tactic used by the Nazis to strip away the humanity from the people they sought to persecute. Because it's easier to be cruel when you stop regarding another human being as a human being. My Sabbath story is full of examples of what happens when we stop regarding one another as human beings. But his story is also full of examples of those that reached out to help and those that risked their lives to save his. From the non-Jewish Polish neighbors that tried to hide him after fleeing the ghetto, to the American soldiers who took him in after the war, to a fellow prisoner named Tzipi who looked after him in Auschwitz. These people remembered their shared humanity, and they recognized how we are responsible for one another. We are responsible for one another. It is the ongoing work of every day to use our voices to speak out against injustice and prejudice and hate. And we must also be honest and do the work to recognize when it starts to fester within ourselves. When we share our stories with each other and when we listen, we learn to see ourselves in one another's pain, and from there, true healing can begin. From there, we can find a way forward. I learned this from my grandfather. And tonight on this Yom HaShoah, I am honored to share my Sabbath story with you and to add my voice to his legacy. So at this time, I will guide you through our candle lighting ceremony. If you have received a candle from us, we ask you now to pick up your candle and take a look at the name on it. If you are joining with a candle of your own, please take some time now to think of someone, maybe a family member or a family friend or someone even you have read about, whose life was tragically affected by the Holocaust. While we acknowledge that each person named is just one of millions, they were never just a number. By saying their name out loud, we are affirming their story, their complete and complex humanity, and their dignity in life. As we gaze into these flames and we remember these names, I'd like to share a special prayer, one that my grandfather often sang in memorials, and I again had the honor of traveling with him in 2015 to the site of Auschwitz itself, where I saw him sing this prayer, El Malei Rachamim, a prayer for the departed. And since we are fortunate enough to have his voice on video, even though he is no longer with us, he is still able to lend his voice to these moments of memory. So you will see in this video him standing in front of the notorious death gate of Auschwitz, singing this prayer. And while it is not the complete prayer, the end is a little bit clipped off, it is still very powerful to hear my grandfather sing. And for those of you on this Zoom, just know that the volume is a little softer than the rest of the videos. So if you would like to turn up the volume as we hear it, you may. We will play this video where my grandfather leads us in prayer. And when we come back on the other side of the video, I will lead us in reciting Kaddish for all those who we have named and all those that we may never know. Let us hear now the prayer from David Wisnia, El Malei Rachamim. We remain muted as I will lead us in reciting Kaddish together. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye decho beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru, Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lalmei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha berichu le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, and comfort to all who are bereaved. Let us say together, Amen. I know that my grandfather's story and his music live on in me. And now that you have heard it, it also lives on in you. Let us keep telling these stories. Let us remember our shared humanity. May the memories of those we have lost and those we love continue to be for a blessing. And may we never forget. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Avi. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for your music and your grandfather's music. We so deeply, and I always do, and I've heard your family story a few times now, and I so deeply appreciate hearing the story and hearing how you talk about your relationship with your grandfather and your relationship to his memory and to the legacy that you are carrying on. So thank you to you and to him for leading us in the candle lighting. It's pretty amazing that you have these videos of him so that you both can lead us in this ceremony. I'd like to thank everybody who's on this call for being here, for taking a little bit out of your day to remember the loss and remember the tragedy that takes place when hatred goes unchecked and when indifference goes unquestioned. And I hope that when we hang up this Zoom call in just a moment and you re-enter your evening on this gorgeous evening, that we enter it with even just a little bit more, empathy, a little bit more courage and motivation to stand up for one another. Whether it is that we're standing up for people within our own community or in other communities. Let us be kind to each other always, but especially when we are seeing so much cruelty play out, whether it's online, in schools, in global politics, in our world. I'd also like to recommend that if you haven't done so already, do take a look at Yad Vashem's database of names to learn a little bit about the individual that's named on your candle. And we invite you to make a little placard that has the names of somebody who might be important to you. Perhaps that is a family member, somebody who might have named earlier. And as your candles burn, if you feel so moved to do so, we invite you to post a photo of it and use the hashtag yellow candle and the hashtag Philly Remembers so that we can add to this collection of joining together in community to light our candles. And with that, I want to thank you all, and I hope you have very good and very safe evenings. Thank you for being here today. Thank you so much.